Get it on! Sprawl and brawl, ground and pound. Get ready for an MMA showdown. Now, the ultimate Octagon Insider, Sean and Tristan Ducross.
What's up, everybody? What's up? You are listening to the Sports Warriors right here on YouTube.tv, the Sports Warriors TV. We are the realest combat sports talk show that you have. Real talk, real opinions. I'm Tristan Ducross. Along my side, as always,
Sean Ducross. So Tristan, UFC 205 Predator made one heck of an impression on a lot of people across the globe because, again, the UFC seems to be tapping into something unique. Or is it?
Sean, we have to mention about the UFC going in a different direction, and in yesterday's presser, it fueled what many, if not a lot of people have already thought about in the direction that it's going to currently go. And it's official. Let's just call it what it is. The rankings are gone in the UFC. And it said it all live at the 205 presser. Conor McGregor, Eddie Alvarez will headline your 205 in New York. And it's funny that everybody's talking about who picks who does what, but yet we're talking about Conor McGregor. Eddie Alvarez ducked Khabib to get Conor.
And let's make that perfectly clear. Conor McGregor in this presser said that, you know what? I picked you. I'm the one that picked this fight. I'm the one that said, you know what, this is the fight. This is the money fight. But at the end of the day, Tristan, he wasn't the one that picked this fight. He could try to spin it all he wants and say he did it, but let's make it perfectly clear to all the fight fans out there. Khabib signed on the dotted line to fight Eddie Alvarez for the title at UFC 205 and 206. It was Eddie Alvarez that said, hold up. Pump your brakes. This guy, Conor McGregor, wants to come up to 155 or drop down to 155, depending on whichever way you want to look at it.
Right, considering that he just fought at 170.
So you look at it, and if you're Eddie Alvarez, you know exactly why he did this. It was to get a payday. However, if you listen to what Conor McGregor had to say at the presser or after the presser, I can't remember which way it happened, but he says he's going to be the one that's making money. That Eddie Alvarez is simply collecting a paycheck
like the same money
of the same value. So how did this benefit Eddie Alvarez?
Dude, I was wondering about that too, because either Eddie Alvarez is the dumbest person on the planet or he has the dumbest camp on the planet. Because if you pick Conor McGregor, you know the money's there. So explain to me how you stay at your current pay rate. And he says, oh, it's not about the money. Oh, dude, you're fooling yourself. It's all about the money. You're a guy that left Bellator because of a contract dispute, because you wanted more money, you wanted more fame, so you jumped ship and you went across the bow. You want to talk about Conor McGregor having no gas, but yet you have no gas either. You want to talk about ducking opponents, but yet you duck the opponents. I mean, call a spade a spade.
It's like looking into a mirror.
Like really, you and I?
Kind of. I mean, look at us. Black hats, gray shirts today, you know. Just chucking it up to twins. But you look at their value, and Conor McGregor says that at the end of 2017, he's going to be a $40 million man.
Right? $40 million.
I don't put it past him. Eddie Alvarez, we've seen him we've seen the ups and downs of Eddie Alvarez. But one thing Eddie Alvarez has is a champion mentality. He has risen from the ashes. He's risen like the phoenix.
Very true.
Now he has the title around him. He's got the style that will make him a champion.
He also has a style that poses an interesting threat to Conor McGregor too.
Absolutely. And that's his wrestling pedigree. He will grapple. He will wrestle you. He will fight you for cage control. If Conor McGregor does not catch him, this is another tough fight for him. Because he's so used to using his quickness, and everything else. He's just so quick to strike. Oh, I'm going to get in, I'm going to get out. We saw him at 170. He wasn't as quick. Now the question is that at 155, will he be quick as he was at 145?
I think he will be.
Can he get in and out of the grasp of Eddie Alvarez? We've seen Eddie Alvarez able to take shots. He says that he has a weak chin. We've all seen it. He's been screwed up and still managed to pull it together. Remember when he couldn't see almost out of one eye because he had a busted nose? He still managed to win that fight. And I believe it was against Gilbert Melendez. He still showed up, competed, and did things that normal people probably wouldn't have thought he could be able to do because of the stigma he had from Bellator. But now he's the champion. I'll give credit. Man, Conor McGregor, that guy could talk smack with the best of them. He's got a degree in talking. I mean, if you could hand out a degree in how to get your opponents rattled, go see Conor McGregor.
But is it bad that here we're talking about Conor McGregor and Eddie Alvarez and what it means to the UFC? Because let's look deeper into the picture. It's pretty bad when you're sitting at a press conference and Jeremy Stevens says he's the baddest 145 and Conor's response is, who the F are you? Who is that guy?
Well, let's get it right. Who the fuck are you?
Don't say it.
I'm just saying. He said, who the fuck are you? Emphasize the K, not the F-U-C-K. Come on, you got to say it with it. You got to make sure that you.
I would, but I'm going to keep it nice here. But when you have him that is so good on the mic, so good on the stick, and you are literally talking about other players that mean absolutely nothing to the sport, we're talking about a world now that consists of nothing but rankings. It consists simply about who can talk on the stick, who can sell the fight. And right now, dude, you had several people that were trying to pop off at the mouth at UFC 205, and I'm just like, dude, just stop talking.
It's just like UFC 200, and the list goes on.
Like, if you're not good on the mic, don't even attempt to talk. Jeremy Stevens, dude, the best line I heard was when you posted that video that said he called him a crackhead ginger. Like, dude, please go back to School of Hard Knocks 101 and learn to trash talk. Because that was the best thing that he could come up with.
And that's why I say, Tristan, is that trash talking
but would you buy that fight?
Trash talking is a unique skill in itself.
Right.
Not a lot of people can trash talk. It's just not built in them.
But would you pay to see that fight? Jeremy Stevens versus Conor McGregor? I don't think I would. Because he's still at least two fights away, and
Tristan,
he's talking.
Let's make it real, okay? You want to buy the fight, that's a lie. We know it's a lie. They know it's a lie. Everybody that's listening to us, everybody that's watching us right now on YouTube knows that's a lie.
Why?
Because you're going to tune into Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor is UFC's John Cena. He's good on the mic. You love him and you hate him.
His skill set is exactly what we think it is.
You're going to chant, "Go Conor, go Conor," or "Ole, ole, ole, ole." You're going to be chanting that.
He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands.
And that's what's unique about Conor McGregor. You love to hate him. He knows what you want. He knows what you're going to do before you even know what you're going to do. And we were talking about this all across Facebook for the last 24 hours. Is the identity of UFC versus Bellator versus World Series of Fighting versus every single promotion out there. We were talking about it. And my comparisons, again, for 500 times, it's beating a dead horse. But the similarities between WWE, WCW, UFC, and Bellator are undeniable. It's there.
The only thing that changed it is 3 letters.
It's
3 letters, Sean.
Yes, and when you look at it, let's dig deeper. Every week I dig deeper into the comparisons between UFC and Bellator, WWE versus WCW. Every show I dig a little bit deeper. So let's dig a little bit deeper. Okay? For years, WWE, WCW battled Monday Night Wars. They were not on the same level. Never were, never will be. Everything else. But where the comparisons come into play is the simplicity of it is that when you look at WWE and who's fighting for the title, it really doesn't matter about the wins and losses in wrestling. It simply matters about, can you sell the main event? Can you main event WrestleMania? You look at UFC right now, and you look at the rankings. The rankings are essentially what WWE's win-loss records are. Irrelevant. They're there. You know they're there. But it means absolutely bupkis. Because it's getting to the point that, Tristan, at the end of the day, all it matters is, can you main event a UFC pay-per-view? Can you bring in buys? Can you bring fans in? We kind of got away from it when we were talking about Reebok, the Reebok deal, and how crappy the Reebok deal was. But one thing that came from the Reebok deal was one key ingredient. We talked about this when it came out. Was that, hey, guess what? If you want to make money on the Reebok deal, what do you have to be willing to do? Sell yourself. You have to be able to have a good shtick and talk on the mic and sell yourself.
If you want the money,
you have to sell yourself. Oh my God. There's a similarity. There's a parallel. I was told, well, Bellator does freak shows. That's more wrestling than it is. Yeah. There's no denying that.
But UFC just had a freak show in CM Punk.
See? There's similarities and parallels. The only thing different is the structure in which that we are living in reality and not fiction. We're not watching pre-scripted television. We're watching authentic, real guys battling it out for the chance at headlining the next big show. That's what we're dealing with. That's what we're seeing. It bothered me to see, oh, look, Conor McGregor gets another shot at another title after he just won the second fight against Nate Diaz that we could all go either or with.
Oh, wait, and Jose Aldo comes out and says, this is nothing but a circus. I'm going to ask for my release. Of course you are, dude. You're the interim title holder. You want the real title from Conor McGregor at 145.
And Tristan, that's an issue in itself. When you get the whole thing of Jose Aldo, that's it. I want my release from the UFC, or else I'm going to retire. I'm not afraid. I'm going to fight UFC in court. Okay, pause. Soak that in for a minute. Okay, let's get this very clear. You will not fight the UFC in court because that's why we still don't have a MMA union for the fighters. Let's just be real on that. Will you retire? Probably not. Will you get released? Probably not. All this is all bark and no bite. Because at the end of the day, Dana White is going to do what Dana White does. He will
lies through his teeth
and does the exact opposite. Again, eerie similar to what made Vince McMahon so successful. When he went through the whole era of the steroid era in wrestling and went into court and everything else like that, what happened?
He was able to stand toe-to-toe and win.
He said he didn't know anything about it.
Absolutely.
While all of his guys and wrestlers were all on steroids. He wasn't going to say his guys weren't on steroids.
Why? It's his promotion.
It was giving him the opportunity to make the most money. And Dana White isn't going to release Jose Aldo because Jose Aldo is has his feelings hurt because of the fact that he's a company puppet right now in the 145 division.
Because of Conor McGregor.
Yes, I get the fact that you want the real title. Any human being would not fault you for that. I would want the real title at some point. So strip him of the title. But if you're not going to do so, Why would you take the title off your biggest money guy? Even though Dana White, after the last fight, said that he had to defend the title at 145,
But yet he gives
be stripped.
Right. And I'm still confused about that. All right. Let's think about this for a minute, folks. To all reviewers, people on Twitter land, people on Facebook land, people on YouTube land. The Sports Warriors Nation keeps it 100. Let's just stew on this for a minute. So Dana White said after his last fight against Nate Diaz that he's going to take the title, the 145 title, and strip him of it. Huh. Did that happen?
No, because he realized
that he's what?
He's a
money fighter. Okay. So, after all the talk about Jose Aldo forcing him to fight Conor McGregor at 145 for the title, that didn't happen, did it? Because he was supposed to fight Eddie Alvarez for 155. Oh, wait. Conor McGregor, he's a what? He's a money fight. So we're going to give him the 155 title shot. And then we're going to say again, after the 155 title shot, regardless if he's a two division winner, if he wins, he will only have that 145 title for that second to be claimed as a two division winner. And then he will be relinquishing that 145 title. Will he? No. Will Dana White hold his word again for the 300th time?
No, he won't, because it'll be
he lied about the Cyborg and Lena fight.
When you got a guy that is a two division champ.
Yes.
Let's parallel this again. Back in WCW, you have one of the biggest buildups in the history of wrestling. When Sting went from the blonde-haired, muscular guy to the Crow, and what was anticipated as the biggest wrestling feud in the history. Just storyline. When he ended up taking on Hulk Hogan,
where he didn't talk, and he faced Hulk Hogan,
but the bottom line,
it told the story.
But the bottom line, absolutely, the bottom line with that, where the parallel goes, is that if Conor McGregor is the two division champ, do you know where this is going? This is simply going the route of, we will see Conor McGregor versus Floyd Mayweather. That's what this is building up to. This is why Dana White continues to support Conor McGregor and give Conor McGregor the opportunity at fighting him for title after title. Because how well is it going to look is that if you could continue to build up Conor McGregor and put him on this soapbox of being the best in the world, and then you put him against Floyd Mayweather in a boxing fight, you know how much that's going to sell? Because Conor McGregor is the biggest name in mixed martial arts going today versus the biggest pro boxer in the last decade. You know how much money that's going to draw? That's what this is leading off to. This is the storyline that's being built behind the curtains. Is that a little far-fetched? Maybe. But don't be surprised that as of September 28th, 2016, Sean Ducross, one half of the Sports Warriors, announces to the world that we will see Conor McGregor versus Floyd Mayweather in a boxing fight at some point.
Because it's all about the money.
That's where we're going. That's what's going on. If it's not all about the money...
how many people are going to hate about that?
Right? But if it's not all about the money, Tristan, then why is it that the UFC 205 showing in Madison Square Garden has cage-side tickets for $1,500?
Right?
Why is it that the levels go from $250, $450, $600, $800, and $1,000? If Conor McGregor wasn't headlining, we wouldn't be talking about a $1,500 ticket. Right? Let's be real on that.
See, folks? He is the money fighter. Whether you like him or not. It was just like Floyd Mayweather, dude. How many people in that era, including you and myself, we did not knowingly accept Floyd Mayweather for what he was.
But reality is that
He sold fights.
And
you paid to see and just pray that he would get his butt kicked.
And you talk the same way about him that you're
talking about Conor McGregor right now.
You love to hate him. We were one of them. We love to hate Floyd Mayweather. He ran all the time. He was a defensive boxer. But it is what it is.
But it doesn't matter about his style of fighting. It's about business at the end of the day.
He was a smart businessman.
Right. And the business dictates on how you perform and what you do with it. That's the era we are in. All these guys that line the streets, that say they want to be a UFC fighter or a Bellator fighter or a WSOF fighter. The realest part about this is the fact that, A, sell a fight, sell a ticket, know your role, and push for it. There's no more about, I'm the best fighter. There's no more about who can claim the fame just because you hold a world title. Doesn't necessarily mean that you're a great fighter.
And that's a very good comment right there, Tristan, as we go into break. It doesn't matter if you have a title or not. Conor McGregor does not have the 155 title. But
he's not even in the top rankings in the 155.
But he talked his way into that.
Absolutely. And you are listening live right now to the Sports Warriors. I'm Tristan Ducross. Along my side always is my brother, Sean Ducross. And the impact of Chris Cyborg Santos, is it a good thing? But where are these so-called super fights? More UFC 95 Fallout and UFC Fight Night 96 preview with your boys, the Sports Warriors, the Ducross brothers. We'll be right back after this break.
Watching the Ducross Brothers, the Sports Warriors, right here on YouTube. You can catch us every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. You can check us out at our website, www.thehotspotshow.com, or you can just follow us on Facebook at Ducross Brothers. You can find us also on Facebook at Sean and Tristan Ducross. So, stay up with us. Keep up. Real talk, real opinions, the only way combat sports should be done.
All right, everybody, we are back. We are the Sports Warriors. Real talk, real opinions. You can find us on Facebook, Sean and Tristan Ducross. You can also find us on Twitter at the Ducross Bros. You can also find our website at www.thehotspotshow.com. In the meantime, all we say is, don't be scared, homie. We tell it exactly how it should be. No bias, no sugarcoating. We are what we are. Sean, UFC Fight Night 95, headlined by Christian Cyborg Santos, taking on Lena Landsberg. Whether you like Cyborg or not, this isn't a bash about her. The problem I have about Christian Cyborg Santos is that she doesn't fight girls right now of her size. She fights girls that are below her, that are smaller, that are what I call powder puff girls. Why? Because she walks around at 165, 170. Come fight time, that's what she's weighing in at. Yet she's fighting girls at 135. Naturally 135s. I don't care if you gain weight and you move up to 140, 145. Doesn't mean anything. Because at the end of the day, do you know how to carry that weight? Do you know how to do anything with that extra weight? If you ain't never cared about it, cool. You say you want a tough fight. Okay. But the same outcome is always going to happen. Every single time Cyborg steps into that cage, looks across that octagon, whether it would have been Leslie Smith again or Lena Landsberg, the reality of the situation is that she fights powder puff girls. She claims that she wants a top 10 bantamweight. Bantamweight. In order for her to cut down to 140. Again. Explain to me
why you would cut down to 140 after the last 2 weight cuts have been hellacious on the body. Why would you want to put yourself through all of that all over again? How is it worth killing yourself to fight at 140? There needs to be a woman's catch weight. Just like there is in amateur fighting where you have a window of a 5-pound differential.
But if you ask anybody, we're still for thinking about a weight range for women. That's just what I've been told.
Why is it stupid? Because we care about the health of women? That makes us stupid?
Apparently.
Because we want the health of the women to be beneficial to them instead of trying to cut weight and killing themselves doing it? Some women have it easier than others. Some women don't. The women generally that are fighting, yeah, they weigh in the range of 105 to 135 with no questions asked. So dropping about 10 pounds probably is easy. But for the women that come in weighing about 160 and 170, trying to ask them to cut down to 140 is ridiculous.
Absolutely it is.
That's the issue we have. Not about the women that are cutting the 5 pounds, the 10 pounds. The issue is coming from the women that want to fight, that have to cut down to as low as 140. That's the issue. That's where the range needs to be. We're not saying the range has to be for all divisions. It just has to be from the 140s to the 150s. That's where it needs to be. Because the women who are carrying that excess weight has a harder time cutting down to the 140. We saw that with our girl Erin Tohill. When we first started talking about women's MMA and how hard it is to cut weight for women.
We were just asked, Sean, what catch weight would be good or ideal for Cyborg Rousey fight?
145 to 150. In theory, I'd stick with 145 because I think you asking Ronda Rousey to puff up to 150
is asking too much.
Yes.
It would be great and beneficial for Cyborg, not for Rousey.
Yes.
You want to make it a fair fight, I think you put it at 145.
Absolutely.
I think that's a healthy common medium between the two at this point.
But that's where my issue is.
But man, we've nothing against Lena or anything like that because she was a bulldog. She accepted the fight knowingly, knew she wasn't going to make it out the same fighter that she walked in as. But when you look at Cyborg, right, and you look at what she's capable of, weren't we all in awe that here comes Cyborg stepping into the UFC? We knew coming in that there wasn't a 145 division. We knew that all of her fights were going to be a catchweight, but weren't we not promised super fights? Leslie Smith is no super fight. Lena Landsberg is no super fight. So where are these so-called super fights? To me, these are just like a WWE squash job. We're going to take a jobber off the streets, know she's going to get absolutely ransacked, but it's okay for ratings because you're going to see a win by Christiane Cyborg, Sean. How is that right at this point?
And that is the question mark that everybody raises. But at some point, you have to wonder what's next. Christiane Cyborg Justino just simply needs to go back to Invicta or needs to go to Ryzen. Send her to Ryzen. She'll make 10 times more money. So let her go over there. Let her make money. Let her fight women that are similar to her weight class because, trust me, you can find women that want to fight her over there. It'll be easier. So just continue to do you. You've been a great ambassador for women's MMA, you've done so much. If the Ronda Rousey fight doesn't happen, that's to me the only alternative. But you also end up wondering what's the alternative between Roy Nelson and Antonio Bigfoot Silva. Roy Nelson knocked out Bigfoot Silva.
Again.
The guy has a weak chin. What does this prove? What is next? The only thing I can see happening next is give Roy Nelson Andrei Arlovski and defend that weird fight at Elite XC back in 2008. Put those two back. Redeem it all over again. Avenge the split decision to Derek Lewis. That's another one. So, those are your options. Maybe a Josh Barnett who defeated Andrei Arlovski is a good fight. Maybe that's a good route to go. So there's options kind of in play with Roy Nelson.
But I think also a sanction needs to be in play too for Roy Nelson for kicking Big John McCarthy.
Yeah, I don't care that even if Bigfoot's your friend and you knocked him out and you didn't want to do the walk-off Mark Hunt, but you don't go back and you kick Big John McCarthy.
Right.
He's been in the game way too long to be disrespected like that. That is not the proper way to conduct yourself. So hold yourself accountable and realize at the end of the day you were wrong, and that don't be surprised if he's cut for those actions because it looks bad. You're representing the UFC, and that's what you do?
Yeah, I don't care what happened or what transpired. We've all seen slow refs react to certain things, but you don't wall up and you kick another fight. You just don't. Or kick a ref. You don't. Regardless of what they're there or what is transpired through there, you just don't lay hands on a ref. You don't. And when you're looking at this, also, Sean, we spoke about Enan Barao versus Philip Nover. We talked about Enan Barao that, okay, at what point is it enough, dude? Enan Barao, who a couple years back was pound for pound one of the best fighters in the division. But now we're talking about what's left for him. Dude, he beat a guy that comes into the UFC as 1-4. He leaves at 1-5, granted. But dude, you took him to a split decision? I mean, to a unanimous decision? For what, man? You should have finished this guy. So what does that now say about Enan Barao? That he is no longer the same guy that he was capable of. Enan Barao had so much going for him, and it's funny how a loss changed his legacy just like that.
It happens to some people. We've seen star players in baseball get the yips. Rick Ankiel. We've seen Chuck Knobloch. We've seen.
Wait, wasn't there a fighter that I was just telling you that has the yips? I can't remember.
But you can talk about the mindset of Enan Barao and say he has the mental yips. Can he fight the big one? Or can he just fight the middle of the road guys, kind of there, trying to get himself mentally right again? It's just like when Rick Ankiel started throwing all those pitches over the catcher. He said, you know what, I still want to be a professional. What did I go do?
But you moved to a different position.
To try to save his career.
Well, okay. So, if we're talking about that, let's talk about UFC Fight Night 96, because John Dodson and John Lineker, who is the main event, are now moving into a different weight class. Because John Lineker can't make weight. John Dodson can run through the whole entire bantamweight.
But can't beat Demetrius Johnson.
Right. So he moves out, goes to flyweight. So, at what point do you look at these two guys and say, well, win or lose, one of these guys is going to be in title talk contention for the flyweight title. But what does that say about both men if that you got one that can't make weight and one guy that can't beat a champion? This on paper looks like a great matchup between the two.
It does, and then it raises the same question that we were talking about with the UFC 205, was that what's the UFC's agenda? What is their agenda with these fight cards, with this one on Fox Sports where it's only a 4-fight? Really? 4 fights. We talked about it last week and the weeks before. Dana White doesn't announce 205 on Fox Sports. He announced it on SportsCenter.
Shocking.
Is he fading out Fox Sports?
I think he's done with Fox Sports. Like, honestly, to think about the last couple of cards on Fox, it hasn't been really up to snuff.
No.
And you look at this card,
It's just...
you got John Lineker, who struggled in weight,
But he had a dominant performance against, was it Michael McDonald?
Yep. And then you have John Dodson moving up. You have, and you're looking at both were ranked top 10 in the bantamweight division. And you're looking at Brian Caraway, who's somehow still ranked in the top in the bantamweight division. I don't get it.
But that's an interesting thing, is that if John Dodson wins, does he even have a position in the 135 division? If he wins, does he take on a Brian Caraway?
Right.
An Eddie Wineland, Uriah Faber? How about that one? That was the unique one to me, is that if John Dodson wins, give him Uriah Faber. Because of the fact that...
The glorified gatekeeper.
Yes, because that should be the end of all ends. Is because John Dodson ran through the 125 division. The division with Demetrius Johnson. Ran right through it. Nothing left to prove. But he couldn't beat Demetrius Johnson. Now he goes up to 135. If he can't get over the hump, if he loses here.
And here's the answer to the people in the chat room. What is next for Faber?
Needs to retire. I will continue to say that. If this fight happens, then the fight needs to end. Uriah Faber's career needs to be over. So this fight, I want to see Faber versus Dodson, win or lose for Dodson. Because
this is where you put a title shot on the line versus career on the line. You could sell that. You know, you could really just think about that alone and sell that fight. Career versus title shot.
You know, it was brought up in the chat room. Dillashaw, who is he going to fight next? I just want to simply say, throw it out there, let's just throw in Brian Caraway. Rankings dictate Brian Caraway is ranked number 4. So in theory, he should be right up there. But that's where we're at with UFC Fight Night 96. You can't forget to, Will Brooks is taking on Alex Oliveira in this fight. And Brooks is 2-0 in the UFC, but he's won via decisions.
But he's facing a guy in Alex Oliveira who just continues to not find a home in a division. Lightweight, welterweight, lightweight, welterweight. Like, at some point, you got to find out what division you want to be in.
Why? He wants to do what Donald Cerrone's doing.
But he's the guy that has talent, but can't figure out how to get over that provincial hump. You're looking at a guy like Will Brooks that is a cross, that is a superior athlete, superior in striking. This guy is fast, athletic, like nobody's business. Alex Oliveira has one hope against this fight. In this fight, one.
That he can submit him or knock him out, because we all know that Will Brooks is going to grind him out.
He needs to get dirty.
Yeah, he needs to be the grinder.
Yes.
He needs to get in the pocket. He needs to try to wear down Will Brooks.
Because if you don't, Will Brooks will octagon control you to death.
But this fight card starts later than normal because it's been pushed back for NASCAR. Really? It got pushed back for NASCAR?
Right?
Like, You guys,
We talking about NASCAR.
left turn. That's a different topic. Sorry, guys. I know there's probably some NASCAR fans out there. My bad.
I apologize. Not
But-
really.
That's the stuff in a nutshell.
Dude, Nate McCourt is on this card.
Nate Marquardt?
Yep.
Nate the Great.
His career is literally on life support. He loses, I think we pull the tube out of his mouth and wait for the... at the end. In the meantime, this is the Sports Warriors bringing you the realest opinions, the realest talk on the combat sports world. I'm Tristan Ducross. Along my side, as always, my partner in crime, the one and only, my brother, Sean Ducross. We will now take you out to the Middle East. And then if you don't know, now you know. Because then we're going to cross over to Poland. Yep. Talking combat sports the way that it should be. We ain't just a one-trick pony. We're the Sports Warriors right here on YouTube.tv.
You are watching the Ducross Brothers, the Sports Warriors, right here on YouTube. You can catch us every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. You can check us out at our website, www.thehotspotshow.com. Or you can just follow us on Facebook at Ducross Brothers. You can find us also on Facebook at Sean and Tristan Ducross. So, stay up with us. Keep up. Real talk, real opinions, the only way combat sports should be done.
All right, everybody, we are back. We are the Ducross Brothers right here on YouTube.tv. We are the Ducross Brothers. I'm Tristan Ducross. Along my side, as always, my partner in crime, the one and only Sean Ducross. Dude, incredible show this weekend. Middle East? What? Poland? What? Where are we going with this? It is simple. We are looking at a new wave of combat sports. We are looking at a brave new world out there. My friend, Brave. Combat Federation. Are you kidding me? First showing. I want to talk about the extravagant lights. In the Middle East, we've seen Pride do it, but something that Brave did was doing something completely unique in itself. The music, the pyro, the entrances.
The production value of Brave MMA was perhaps one of the more legit starts to a promotion that you could have wanted. If you could not have asked for a better start to your debut show at Brave the beginning. And when you look at it and you were watching those fights, it was a great showing. You said the fight you wanted everybody to pay close attention to was Loman versus Malambo.
AKA the Black Mamba.
They did just that. They brought the house down. And what I classified as the fight of the night.
Did I not say that would be the fight of the night?
And sure enough, it showed up. It put out. Loman got his nose broken by Malambo. Was rocked early in the first round by Malambo. But Malambo ended up kind of gassing out. And Loman just dug deep in the next 2 rounds. Brought the house down. And rocked Malambo in the second round. And then found the distance and was able to keep it. And Malambo down on the mat. Where he was able to then get some ground and pound going. And then ultimately in the third round, much of the same thing. Took Malambo down, flattened him out, rear naked choke, and that was it. That was I looked at my wife and said, dude, that was one heck of a legit first fight that Manilo and the crew of Brave put on. If that's any indication, we're in for one heck of a night. We were just that, with finishes after finishes. Quality fights after quality fights. And one thing I was told earlier today was that when you look at the main event of Salawati versus Aziz, Salawati landed big shots. He was able to get Aziz down to the mat, ground and pound, land some elbow, and then Aziz landed some elbows from the bottom. But ultimately, Sawadi did what he did. There was legitimate beef between the two. So when you have two guys in the Middle East that everybody knew about, that hated each other, it made perfect sense to make this your headline. But also what drew people to Bahrain was the fact they had the king of Bahrain and Koji. And Koji put on a show too for the fans with the king of Bahrain, with his second round submission doing a north-south choke. He was on the ground. He went from the crucifix to the north-south, and ultimately that was it. There was nothing Mashley could have done to defend himself from Koji.
Dude, but not even that. You can talk literally top to bottom about Bahrain's card, about Brave and what they accomplished. Because what was it? Farhad had a fight that at one point, this fight could have gone either way. Either way. But yet, you saw Azizin finish it off the fight. When you
it was Farhad that won the fight.
Oh, Farhad that won the fight. But you thought at one point that Azizin was going to win.
Yeah, because in the second round, he took control of the fight.
Right.
He was brutalizing the leg. He was killing it. It's like, oh man, he's chopping that leg down? What's left?
Dude, the kicks were lethal.
But all it took was a right to the body, followed with a left hook to the head, and then that was all she wrote. And sent Al-Zazine down to the mat.
But it was cool. It was something unique.
And like Fightbook says in the chat room, it was sick.
Dude, to be able to watch something from back Middle East, if you're a fight fan, y'all missed one heck of a show. And they will have a second showing. They will have multiple. But when you're looking at Brave, I do want to criticize one thing. I do. And that was the fact that while the music was sick, people coming out to Remember My Name,
or Body Headbangers is what Mashley came out to. Dude, I was sitting here and I was rocking out to all the music.
But the music outdid everything that they worked so hard for because they had great announcers like Carlos Kramer and I can't remember the other guy. But when you're talking into a mic and you can barely hear what the announcers are saying, that was my biggest gripe. Is because while the music's sick and it's cool to hear the music blaring in the background because it's something different, I wanted to also hear what the announcers were trying to say about the fighters.
Kind of as
because
they're
I
walking
don't
down.
know much about the Middle East players. So when you don't know much about the Middle East and you're trying to pull in us, as a fan, you need to see something unique, and I couldn't hear. So that was my biggest gripe.
But other than that, it was a great showing top to bottom. Manolo Hurricane and crew brought the house down with Brave. And I do agree with the sentiment that if you're trying to bring in the fan base to a Middle East promotion, I could see where you're going with it. And the uncertainty of, well, am I going to like it or not? I can kind of get that. But other than that, I would tune in again to Brave because their fights are what brought you to the show. The fights are what brought you to the dance. And as long as Manila Hurricane, the matchmaker for Brave, continues to find these guys and be able to put on a good fight, that alone is going to draw you in.
Right.
That's going to entertain you for the future. That's what's going to bring you in fans.
But let's not forget they will compete with Desert Force out there.
I wouldn't go that far just yet because of the fact Desert Force has been around for quite a while.
Yep. So they have their own fan base. They have their own niche.
It'll be interesting because Brave has a lot of plans. They have a big future. They're already talking about big moves in 2017 with big moves in Europe. So it'll be interesting to see what those moves are, what the three countries are for Brave, and where they might fight next.
But
because
you
it
want
may
to
not
stay with the up to date with the Ducross brothers, the Sports Warriors, because we're going to be the ones that are going to be talking about Brave. Because it is a brave new world. And they will be doing something a little bit different, catering to the people that are out in Europe, catering to people out in the Middle East. It will be.
And then they're going to start coming global. They're going to start coming stateside. And their fight was streamed live on BraveFights.com for free. Yes, Fightbook, for free. So if you didn't see Brave, you were silly and ridiculous. It was free entertainment. Free combat. Free entertainment.
Right.
Where were you? What were you doing?
Hibernating, that's what most people were doing. Because it was at 8 o'clock in the morning.
But will you be hibernating when KSW 36 goes down in Poland?
I won't be.
Because KSW...
I'll be on KSW. I will be there. I will literally be glued to my computer screen watching KSW 36. Because you got Polaris versus Marola. I believe that's its name. Which alone has me intrigued.
It does because both of them are 4-1 in the last 5 fights. So you've got that going on.
And both of them are submission artists.
Yes. Polaris has 15 submission wins.
And Malarta has 12.
52% of his fights have been ended via submission. But although he has won his last 3 out of 4 wins via knockout.
Mikhail, Sean, has been working on his striking so much that Mikhail is knocking people out now. The Skippy says that it's a horrible fight.
It probably is, but it'll be entertaining.
Right?
It'll be entertaining, especially if you ended up seeing the fact that Polaris gets knocked out again.
Very true.
And our buddy Skippy, I agree, because the one that I have that I'm looking forward to is Ariane Lipinski versus Sheila Goff.
Yes.
You're looking at Lipinski, who's 7-3, 5-0 in her last 5 fights, finished 4 via knockout or TKO, has only gone to decision twice. 2 of her 3 losses have been via decision, so she doesn't get knocked out or submitted. Goff, on the other hand, is called the German Tank. I was like, okay.
Yeah, and she's at 115, right?
So she's 9-6, 4 wins via knockout and TKO, 5 wins via submission. She's 3-2 in her last 5, with her 2 losses though coming all the way across in the UFC.
Skippy Cohen disagrees with that too.
Against Amanda Nunes versus Sarah McMahon. Skippy Cohen, he just likes to oversee stuff, so he's just gonna boo everything that has to do with a little bit more stateside. He probably wants us to talk about somebody else on the card that we can't pronounce their names correctly.
I like the 155-pound title fight. Does that count?
I think that's what counts in the chat room. So I guess that's a little bit more of a trend. Can you say his name?
Pezzino versus Gamont.
See? I guess that's close.
I like that title fight. Okay. People are going to spit all over the Malarta and Polaris fight for whatever reason.
Because it's Polaris. He's been in trouble and he's still fighting.
So I get it. I get it why a lot of people distaste. I don't like the co-main event with Sokoju fighting for a title. This is a guy that has been bounced around from every division known to man. He's like 17 and 1,000. This guy gets more fights than a woodshed or a woodpecker that could peck wood. Or this guy gets, I don't know why he continues to get title fights.
Because you know him.
Things. Just because you know him? That's ridiculous. Sokoju could be a good fighter. I just don't know why he can never put his talent together. But Gaumont and Pezzino is the only true title fight, in my opinion, that when you break it down the fights and you see this title fight at 155, hands down, this is it. You're looking at Mr. Crazy and Pezzino, 19-8, 12 knockouts, dude. Finishes his opponents rather than allowing it to go to the distance. 3-fight win streak. 2 of them are by KO and submission. This guy ain't afraid to finish fights. Gourmand is a phenom, okay? Straight carved out of a book. This guy's 11-0, straight killer, knows only one way, and that is finishing off his opponents either by knocking them out or submitting them. He has 3 finishes in his last 5 fights, dude. This guy, if you don't know who Gourmand is, you're going to want to look at this guy. Hands down, this guy is a guy that you will want to know at the end of the day. I feel bad for Pezzino because he's going against Gourmand. Yes, he's 19-8. Yes, he has longevity in the sport. But
and just like that,
you are in for a world of pain.
Tristan, and just like that, I feel bad for anybody that's going to be buying the Manny Pacquiao versus Jesse Vargas fight November 5th that has to deal with the analyst of Stephen A. Smith. Or as our boys from Fight Book love to post,
Ludicrous!
He looks like Ludicrous, and it's virtually identical. So, I feel bad for anybody that wants to deal with that, because if you were top-ranked boxing, the only thing that made sense was Brian Kinney and Timothy Bradley.
Yep.
Because we all know Brian Kinney from his ESPN days of being a boxing analyst then. He has been around boxing for a while.
Correct.
For him to be doing this isn't any stretch of the imagination. But for Stephen A. Smith to be paired with Max Kellerman and thinking at the end of the day that because he's with Max Kellerman, he automatically knows boxing. It's like the photo you posted of him going, when Max Kellerman is talking about basketball.
Disrespectful.
Like, you can't have a differing opinion. What makes life go is when you can have a different opinion and be civil about it and not mock people for their opinions.
Right.
Or not argue with individuals for their opinions. But when you sit back and you go, that's a smug remark that doesn't need to be done because somebody disagrees with you. So at the end of the day, this is a travesty to see Stephen A. Smith calling a boxing fight as an analyst.
Man, it is one thing to be a fan of boxing and to be a color commentator calling a boxing fight. That's Max Kellerman talking about LeBron James, that he's the greatest basketball player over Michael Jordan. You just can't. For top-ranked boxing to take over and say no Jim Lampley, no HBO,
no Max Kellerman. And then apparently that means no Roy Jones Jr.
Right.
Because that was the next thing I was going to say was, well, why didn't you get Roy Jones Jr.? Why didn't you do Brian Kinney, Timothy Bradley,
bring in a boxer,
and Roy Jones Jr.?
Yes.
That would be attention grabbing.
But oh wait, Top Rank Boxing TV says we must appeal to the masses. We must appeal to the new generation.
So you're telling me that Stephen A. Smith is entertaining?
Appeals to the new generation?
Colin Cowherd is more entertaining to my generation.
Right?
Michael Whitlock is more entertaining to my generation.
We're more entertaining to our generation.
Jim Rome is still more entertaining than most guys on radio right now. It's confusing.
I would love to say a comment right here from DC Young Fly saying, bring yo here.
Bring it to YouTube TV where you're going to catch your boys, the Sports Warriors, right here every Wednesday at 5 p.m. But you know what? Before we head out, Tyson Fury pulls out of his fight again with Vladimir Klitschko.
Dude, at what point
is enough?
Tyson Fury, my man, you are a steroid juiced up freak. I'm looking right at the camera, Sean. I'm going to say this right to him. Tyson Fury has 10 days to announce or disclose his illness. Well, his illness is simply that he's off the juice. He's off the steroids. So he's fat and out of shape. Looks across and looks at Vladimir Klitschko and goes, says, uh-oh, I got to fight him real? Nah, I'm good. I'm going to pass.
I'm going to roll my ankle in training.
But then at some point he lost his mind Now he's delusional. So now you have 10 days to disclose about your illness, and you have to give it to the WBO, or the WBO strips you of your title. If you are declared physically disabled by giving the WBO your medical doctor, your medical assessment, you have 180 days to get physically right to defend the WBO. But then I'm looking at that like, I don't even care about Tyson Fury. Stripped him of the title. Let's get a tournament going for the heavyweight division. This is the new era of boxing, so let's get Vladimir Klitschko versus Joseph.
Well, what about Anthony Joshua? That fight is supposed to take place for the IBF title. Is that they're nearing a contract for the two?
Right. So let's have Vladimir Klitschko versus Joseph Parker.
Or I'd go Anthony Joseph.
Right, Anthony Joseph. Or you put Andy Ruiz and David Haye together.
Yep.
And the winner of those fights for the vacant WBO. What? I could be a matchmaker.
But you know what? What's interesting about this is that for years, when the Klitschko brothers were running supreme at the heavyweight division, Tristan, every fighter was afraid to fight them. That's why they always fought in the UK. Nobody wanted to fight them. They weren't entertaining. They were too big. They were this, that, and the other.
They were scary.
But when you look at it, Tyson Fury finally takes the title off of Klitschko, and he's like, I'm running for the hills. I am running for the hills, and I'm not going to defend my title. I'm afraid of Klitschko. All right, cool. That's for you. But this fight was supposed to take place October 9th. July 9th, then October 29th.
So, it's just Tyson Fury, man.
It's boxing heavyweight.
Right.
It's boxing heavyweight.
It's like that best. In every promotion, be it MMA, kickboxing, you name it.
But
all heavyweights are suspect.
But at the end of the day, remember who's coming in the heavyweight division. Trey Morrison.
Woohoo!
Remember that name.
The legend.
And I will leave it.
Tommy Duke Morrison's son, Trey, is in boxing.
And I will leave it on that note.
And we are the New Cross Brothers. The Sports Warriors. I'm Tristan Ducross. On my side is my brother and my partner in crime, Sean Ducross. We do this every Wednesday, starting at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, right here on YouTube.tv, the Sports Warriors TV. Real talk, real opinion, combat sports. Hit us up on Twitter at the Ducross Bros, Facebook, Sean and Tristan Ducross. You can also find us at our website at www.thehotspotshow.com. Until next time, we are the Sports Warriors.